Good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us here. Thanks very much to Thomas and all the team here at PwC for hosting. Welcome, Thomas. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for being here, and welcome to our PwC office here in Frankfurt, also in person. I think for quite a while the personal meetings are coming back, which is good, I think. I have the honor of being partner here in Frankfurt and also leading our global real estate network, and data center is a topic which is coming up for quite a while now, and it's evolving. It's still, looking now at Germany, we are all on an education curve, I would say, on one hand. On the other hand, there are so many capital chasing around for data center, and we have done already and achieved already so much. But if you compare us in Europe with other parts of the world, like the Americas or Asia Pac, there's still room for us to go, but that all comes with the big opportunity. And then, as Richard said, we are picking up on this data center topic as we start early this year in London. I'm really looking forward to the Warsaw event next week, where we also pick up the data center topic, and then one more in Spain, end of June. Just to go around Europe, really learn how the sub-markets are evolving. You always see the same big names everywhere, but there must always be a pick or piece for the local players, which is also significantly more important with this sovereignty discussion we are having currently, which is right. And that gives us a big opportunity for further investment and other things. So what I will do is giving a quick overview what we see as trends, and then we are going to the panel, starting with a much more intense deep dive into the topic with the expert. You are all more expert than I am, to be honest. Yeah, you are in this industry for quite a while. So, and one thing is always we discuss, how do you write data center? Is it the RE or the ES? So but it's US, so it might be a mix in the presentation, but that's another topic. So one starting point, last week we launched a big infrastructure 2050 study created by Oxford Economics for us as PwC, where we look at all the investment trends around infrastructure. And of course, data center and digital infrastructure is one of the 12 sectors which are deep dived in there, and it covers approximately 40 countries globally. And I will just give quick, and you can download the infrastructure 2050 study overall. It's available in the net. There will be further deep dives on digital infrastructure, on data center, and on the specific countries by end of May. So we are still working on the detailed things with Oxford Economics, but it's a good overview. And the good thing is it's the first study, at least I have seen, with a really long-term view. Currently, you see a lot of 2030, but what happens afterwards? So the 2050, you all know it's difficult to project, but it's a consistent view looking what really happened. And what we see, that this trend with this massive additional investments around the world and also in Germany is moving on in the late 20s. And after that, we see that we reach a peak in the study. And afterwards, we are facing a decade of highly maintenance work, which is still above 200 billion globally. So it's significant volume, which is still there. But it won't be the 350 billion globally we are seeing in the next, I would say, 5 years annually. And after that, in the 40s, you see that there's the expectation that there will be a new wave of new technology. So in the 40s, the big investment wave is coming back, ending again around 300 billion annual investment globally in the data center, digital infrastructure space in the 40s. So that's looking at the cycles, seeing, and if you compare that with other industries, it's the same. Now is the heavy CapEx learning curve, investment curve. And then we have to maintain, which is a significant business. We have to maintain all this digital infrastructure. But first of all, again, standing here in Germany, there's so much more to do. We have to really come up to a level which is really comparable to other parts of the region. There's so much still to do. where we also see that the government picked that up, and I will show a slide later on in the new data center strategy they published some weeks ago. As I said, in being a real estate person or a real asset person, we see this trend in our emergent trend reports for, I would say, 5-6 years. That data center is the number one investment class where investors would like to invest. And I really say would like to invest because at the beginning you saw that that was really a niche thing. Over the last years, we see more and more flows, more and more, I would say, real estate capital looking at the data center and the digital infrastructure space. On top, of course, on the infrastructure fund that historically are really heavy invested into the space, and also private equity is looking at us. So different capital pockets are chasing this opportunity, and it's transforming. And as I said, it's a strong learning curve for us, and it's another opportunity to invest because it's all about land. Yeah, you need a piece of land. Yes, you need 2 cables, definitely. And the majority of the money is not for the shelter, it's more for the technology inside, but it all comes together that we need to identify the right locations, which is partly a competition also with other use types like housing. We see a lot of discussion. We had some blockers around Frankfurt where new data center developments were blocked by the local government because it was a competition with how do we get tax income? That's a question of the mayor always. Why don't we create housing? Because we all need housing. So that's a balance we have to find. But they are like, last week I was in a discussion with the mayor of Hattersheim, and they did a good deal a while ago where they really had the majority also to really push that through and made the right decision to get a data center locally. But we see other, Groß-Gerau declined, a new development of things. So that's the stakeholder management is much more important than it was, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago. The same is, of course, energy. We don't have to discuss. We will pick that up in the panel. But the public is something, as the public is one stakeholder we haven't seen so significant than we have seen that in the past. What is pushing the demand? I think that's no real news. It's one big driver is, of course, a further digitization. It's not just AI. It's just the further digitization of the whole economy. But right now, it's also, of course, pushed hard by the sovereignty discussion. Given, not sure if we in 10 years' time we say thanks, Mr. Trump, even if we don't we do disagree with a lot of things you are doing. But for that really hitting us hard and kicking us hard for really be sovereign, not just on defense, but also on digital infrastructure things. So that's a big topic, and it is fair. And I was talking to the Schwarz Group last week, and they also said, "Thank you, Mr. Trump." All the clients, the Mittelstand is coming to us. They want digital infrastructure, independent infrastructure. That's one big driver we have seen over the last years. And as I said, it's not just the AI hype, where we also have some critical discussions. Is that just a hype or what's going on? It's more coming. It's a more fundamental transformation we are going through, which we can discuss if we have to double the data center of just 70%, but still there's so much room we need, especially if we want our data sovereign in the European Union or in Germany. That's for sure. The structural growth, you see, that's again a chart we picked from JLL. It's again just until 2030. We want to double the global capacity from 100 gigawatts to 200 gigawatts, driven by, I talked about Germany, about this independence, but if you look at other parts of the world, United States, AI and technology is, of course, part of the military play. That's why they are pushing this. For China, it's a question of control and also independent. The Gulf states are still diversifying their industry, even having a tricky phase right now with the Iran situation, but still the long-term journey of diversifying their economy away from oil is still going on. Yeah, and as I said, the European Union is seen as a highly regulated piece, but also as a safe haven for some, as we see that some people moving into the European Union to join universities, etc. here in our part of the world, which is a good one. Yeah. We also see it more growing diversification of the data center. It's not, I think 5 years ago we were discussing the hyperscalers, yes, and now we have all different types. I don't want to go into detail. We see this more exotic ones, the offshore, the floating data center, the subsea data center, and now also the discussion data center in space, which is right because you have free energy, but I'm a real estate person. I stand on the ground, so I focus on the ones that are still at least on Earth, not above. But that's also a journey we will see that will diversify at least the picture we see around data storage and data transfer globally. The challenges for Europe, now coming from a global view more to a European one, we see that from a supply chain perspective, meaning building new data center is becoming more and more challenging. You need the supply chain. We have the big data center fair the next 2 days, tomorrow and the day after, which is also focusing on supply chain, how we can control that. We see in some parts that CapEx, the timing and CapEx is really out of control in some of the system because supply chains are broken. And if only one piece is missing, like I learned last week, you can create 99% of the data center, but the missing piece, you can't stop. And partly you have to wait for 2 or 3 years for this. If you don't check and control your supply chain in advance. There are new players on the other hand coming as a user. Neoclouds are starting, especially in Europe. I see the opportunity for a lot of brownfield use. So not just the big hyperscaler greenfield development, which is one part of the story, but my personal view is that Europe will not be only the hyperscaler play. It will be a more diversified solution where a lot of real estate assets partly can be reused into data center on a brownfield, which is also from an ESG or sustainability perspective, the better way. And of course, we see more and more capital, as I said, the infra funds, plus the real estate funds, plus also the real estate banks. We have some in the room, more and more focusing on it, but the ecosystem has to be created. Yeah, it's growing, it's good. We have the Data Center Association also in the panel orchestrating, let's say, the German activities we are doing, but there's more we can do on that. That's for sure. As said some weeks ago, also the German government created a Rechenzentrum strategy, presented it by identifying that this digital infrastructure or data center is an important topic, which the government will support in different angles. They will say, look, we will try, at least from a regulatory perspective, try to force, of course, the sustainability topic, but also the connectivity, because that's one of the main bottlenecks to really get the power. I understand that net we have enough power, but it has just to be controlled and distributed and not blocking connectivities to the net by any project that will never be developed. I think that's something, and the digital sovereignty, but also the government as a user of data center is an important piece where the government is clear that they want to bring that into to really get more infrastructure and data created here locally in Germany. So that's a good message. Of course, it has to be delivered. Strategy is always easy. The delivery is sometimes a challenge. And also happy to picking up that in the panel discussion. Looking at Germany, I think also coming from the data center strategy of the government, they say we want to double our overall capability in gigawatt in Germany towards the 5 to 6 gigawatts globally, but especially the AI pieces. We want to have a multiple of 4 on that. So further growth on specific types. We have the net grid work, so the data network around. The hub is still in Frankfurt, which is growing with further capability problems on the energy side. Berlin is growing heavily, but we are also having this more diversified view on digital infrastructures. Do we really need to be so close to the net, or is it okay to have it someone in north of Germany, even with a lower reaction time for AI training also? That's the discussion we will see, we will have, and it's a discussion, it's an ongoing story. Talking to operators, they still want, yes, I want Frankfurt because that's my key priority, but also happy to listen and learn what the panel will say on that. In general, and that's the last slide I'm using, so for us, that's our house view. We still see the significant growth, so we are not pessimists and saying, look, this is all a boom, and yes, there will be money lost, definitely, like in every cycle and everything, but there's so much money and business opportunities for us. So we see that this is a clear driver and it's moving forward for the next years. As I said, the type of data center, the user type, the development of the equity and debt side, it's getting more complex. So we really have to understand it's not just the data center, it's a different types. And the speed cycle, especially on the technique inside, is moving faster. So that's a big discussion about the obsolescence of a data center. I'm optimistic on that, but also happy to pick that up. The sovereignty as a new differentiator, definitely I explained that. And it's an opportunity for all of us. Being part of the ecosystem, we will never be the only driver in the data center as a real estate industry, but we have to team up. And as I said, the play with the ecosystem is getting wider. We have to be more involved with the political discussion, with the people around, really having a positive sentiment around creating new data center and hosting them, and not just say we don't want it, or like the windmills say, yes, I would love to have it, but not in front of my door. Yeah, that's it. So thank you. That's the quick overview, and I'm now looking to the panel.
That's great. Thanks very much, Thomas. Yes, thank you.